Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. It is evening for me, but I'm getting to talk to a midwife in the morning from Ecuador. So we are so excited to include another episode in our Global Pandemic Midwifery Wisdom e-conference. We've been doing this for almost a month, almost daily calls now. You can check those out on my YouTube channel and definitely go and subscribe if you can. And we're going to bring this new midwife in to have a chat with us today about what's going on in Ecuador. There's been some varying reports of health and disease, and varying conversations globally about what's happening there. So we're really excited to hear that. If you're just joining, go ahead and give me a wave, say hi, tell me where you are in the world. Hi to friends. We're really excited to have a guest today from Ecuador. I'm so happy to see you all. I see Layla is here. Layla, I'm so excited to talk with you about this conference we're putting together. So much going on in the world. So exciting. And yeah, I know. I'm really excited too. Alrighty, let me go check on our guest. There, it worked. Yes.
Sorry, with all the technical difficulties.
No, I know the feeling. I've been in less than optimal Wi-Fi spots myself before. So hi, welcome. Hi, Heather. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, so glad you could join us. So we're doing these little chats, and if you could just say your name and where you are, where you're from, and how you are, we'd love a little intro.
Sure. So my name is Heather Mena, and I am from the United States. Originally from Chicago, but more recently I've been living in near Denver, Colorado, up until 2018, when my family and I decided to drive from the United States to Ecuador. So
Wow.
we've been on the road for about a little bit over 18 months now. And so part of that was when I knew that I really wanted to do something with midwifery while I was out and about. And so I applied for a Fulbright grant to study traditional midwifery in Ecuador.
Amazing.
And I was awarded the grant, which I didn't really think I was going to get, but it's been, it was an awesome opportunity just to learn a lot about traditional midwifery and learn about birth in Ecuador. And so that's what I started doing in September of 2019. And unfortunately, with everything going on now, all of that came to a halt. Yeah. But it was a really great experience while it lasted.
How amazing! Well, so
yeah.
You're still there, and where in the country are you?
So we are in the province is called Napo. So it's considered part of the Amazon region of Ecuador. So we're like more on the jungle side. Ecuador is basically divided up into 4 regions. So the Galapagos is one region, and then the coast is another, and then the mountainous, the highlands region is one, and then the jungle. So they have very different. I mean, within each region, there's still a lot of different cultures and whatnot, but mostly between those 3 distinct regions, they have like a general. It's very different in every zone.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, there's been varying reports coming in there about the state of affairs. Can you tell us what you're seeing on the ground? Are there quite a lot of infections in your area, or what do you know?
So, fortunately, we are in the area that is least affected in the whole entire country. So I was supposed to head to the States actually on the 15th of March, and starting on the 16th of March, that's when they officially closed the borders of Ecuador. Right. And so I fortunately, I was able to decide not to go, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to come back, and I would have been separated from my family, which would have been really. I'm glad it didn't happen, so I don't even have to think about it. And then So Ecuador has put in place pretty strict rules and regulations since I think it was the 16th or the 17th of March. And so this region, I mean, the whole entire country, basically we're only allowed, we have a car, and so we are able to go out once a week. And the rest of the time, we can't go out, but we're really lucky because we're in a beautiful outdoor climate where we can spend time outside. My kids can go, we're right next to a river. I don't think you guys can see it back there, but it's right there. And there's other people that are in the city, you know, and they're inside their apartment, and they're really not allowed to leave. The kids aren't allowed to go outside and walk around. They're not allowed to go to the parks. And so that, I mean, it's hard for anyone, not just children. It's hard for anyone. So I have only really seen what the press has put out in our region. I mean, besides everyone wearing masks and gloves, we haven't seen that many reports. I mean, just the rumors of what the town's saying, you know. But apparently the last time I checked, there was only 20 in the whole province that have been infected. However, that's what they have, you know, registered. So it really depends on what.
We don't know really in a lot of ways. I just saw a New York Times article this morning about Ecuador, and that they have reported 506 deaths in the whole country, but the death rate is 5 times higher than it was this time last year. And that's quite shocking, isn't it? I mean, and very telling. And I think that's the scary part, is because I think a lot of people weren't tested, so that's not a confirmed case, right? And so, and I know there's other places in other countries where they're testing people that have been deceased, but they weren't able to do that here. At least that's to my knowledge, to the articles that I've read, and, you know, just the information that I have seen. It was something like there were 7,000 deaths in the province of Guayas, which is in the coast, the southernmost coast province, one in the south. And so it's really hard. I think, you know, I think everyone is doing the best they can, especially with the situation that is an unprecedented event, you know. And so, but it's still, it's really scary when you call for help and you can't get any because they're inundated with so many requests and needs, right? So, well, I think you're probably very aware of this because of your studies and your travels. I feel like very aware of this right now, and it's that this situation is inadvertently, or maybe by some design, but mostly inadvertently, highlighting inequities that existed before this situation. Like your example of living in the city versus living with green space. This is true all over Europe and all over Asia. And, you know, I've seen reports everywhere that those who had less have even less. And those who were privileged are even more privileged in this experience, the globe over. And we're seeing that on a countrywide scale too. The countries with less capacity in their healthcare system and less resources seem to be the ones that really are in line to struggle and suffer the most with this. And I mean, I know that this is probably a bigger scope than you wanted to get into today, and I apologize. I tend to go deep. I'm sorry, but as an obvious, you know, academic and forward thinker yourself, who's plugged into the midwifery world, both the ancient world and traditional midwifery and modern, because you are a CNM from the US, you know, how are we going to get through this? Like, I've been asking kind of everyone I know, like, everything's going to be different on the other side of this. And it seems to me that the gulf between the haves and the have-nots is just widening with this experience. I know you can't really speak in broad terms, but what do you see on the ground there with your colleagues, with your community, where you are right now in Ecuador?
Well, I think you mentioned being, a deep thinker, and I'm married to one of those. And my husband and I, contemplate these what's going on in the world every single day. And I think there's no easy solution, and it's not black and white, unfortunately. But there are so many people here that live hand to mouth, and so I think that you see all these people like saying like, don't open the borders, don't let these people, like, we need to stay in our houses. But then you also see the people that, yesterday was our day to go out and buy groceries, and I would say there was probably a quarter of the amount of people that you usually see on the streets buying groceries, because you know what, they don't have money to buy groceries. And so that is really unsettling to know that, the people that sold empanadas in the street, or the people that sold, coconuts or whatever it was, that they brought that money home and that was what they used for the next day. They don't have that opportunity. And, I know that different governments are trying to help and send money, but, here here in Ecuador, I think that they were giving out like $50 or $60. It was like a one-time thing, which, I mean, there are people that make $50 a month, and I think that would help. Any amount of money is helping. However, like you said, what's the end game here? Because I think, unfortunately, I don't know. And I think, our family is here. We're on our property in Ecuador, but our property is completely undeveloped. It was just a piece of property. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have water. And luckily we have our RV that we travel down here with. Yeah. And so we've been lucky. My husband is very, I can't think of the word in English. I mean, he can do a lot of things. And so I'm basically married to MacGyver. And so he's been able to fix a lot of things, in the interim, and that's great. But I think about all the people that this is temporary for me, but what about the people that never have electricity and don't have running water ever? Yeah. And that is it makes me question, and the people that say like, I don't want to leave my house yet, it's not safe. Yeah. It's because they're not worried. They don't have food instability, or, there's not 10 people in a small one-room house or whatever it is. And so I think it's very easily for us to say, yeah, we all should stay inside. But that's those of us who don't have to worry about what we're going to eat for our next meal, or,
I know. I've been going, I've just been feeling this pull between what first world countries are able to say and do and command, compared to the reality that many live around the globe. Mm-hmm. And I've said this before, and it feels controversial to say, but it almost feels discriminatory. This shelter in place order is intended to save lives by social distancing and slowing the spread and squashing this curve and all of the memes or the acronyms that we're saying, or the sayings. But if you can't, if sheltering in place mm-hmm. means that your family goes hungry, are we really saving lives? And I know this is a very controversial conversation and topic, because it's questioning, the mainstream order, but the mainstream order seems to be aimed at the privileged. And I haven't heard any strong voices yet really weighing the risk-benefit ratio for folks that don't have the ability to stay home, mm-hmm. because they don't have food, they don't have a home, they don't have resources, that their government can't provide any resource. Like, there are really millions of people who don't have the privilege, the luxury, mm-hmm. to follow the orders that are coming down globally. And I know these are unprecedented times and no one has the answer, and I certainly don't expect you to pop out an answer, but it's really worrying to me. And so it's really a privilege to talk to you in a location in the world that is maybe poised to have one of the largest effects without much recourse. In talking to locals there, what is the general feeling there? What are people saying or talking about?
I think most people are scared. Most people, I mean, I've heard many people say the apocalypse is coming, like we're all going to die. And so I think the other thing too is when you watch, the news here, yeah. I mean, not that there's a lot of fantastic, like happy thoughts on, but I feel like education is really important, especially in these times. Yeah. It's like people that are wearing masks and gloves. Unfortunately, that is just, it's not fixing the problem, and people think that they are protected by wearing a mask, and people think that they're protected by wearing gloves, but they wear those same gloves, and I see someone serving me my bread, touching the money, doing all those things with the same gloves, but that's not doing anything. You're just spreading those same germs. You'd be better off not wearing gloves and washing your hands, yeah. Or between every single thing that you're doing. Or the fact that you have a mask on, but you're touching your face, you're taking the mask off, you're putting the mask back on. And so, it's frustrating to see, because people think that that's protecting them when really it's a false sense of protection. And yeah. So I feel like, these are things as a healthcare provider, I've been taught, and, I've been able to give information, to my mom who works at a bank, or my husband and my kids, and do those things. But there's people that they just say, like, put these gloves on, but they don't teach them how to use them. And so education, I feel like, is really important. And to show, they say, like, oh, okay, one person died in our province. How many people actually live here? And I'm not saying that coronavirus isn't dangerous, because I think it is dangerous. However, we have to also be able to think, like, about, like you said, weigh the risk benefit. Yeah. Of, this is really important, because not, like you said, there's people that are going hungry during this. And yeah. So it's there's no easy solution. And I think that's yeah. the most frustrating thing, because, yeah. But like you said, most of the people that are in position of power to give, money to people that need it, or change rules and regulations, they don't know what it's like to live hand to mouth, and so yeah. There's yeah. no easy fix, unfortunately.
I know, and when I talk about these controversial things, I don't have the answer either. So mm-hmm. I'm also, I don't know, but I will say that as a critical thinker, I don't think we as a world, and certainly, the folks in power, I'm not sure that we have a good equation. Like, I'm not sure that we know what is better. I understand why these orders came down. I understand why forward thinking and saving life potential initiated this thing. But I really wonder, and I really worry about those folks who don't have the privilege to stay home for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months, for 6 months. I really wonder what's going to happen. I'm very, very worried. I'm in close contact with folks all over the place, and hearing really, really scary reports. How are you and your family? You're well and have some space there, and are sheltering indefinitely, probably? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we're great. We've been living on the road for the last 18 months. So I feel like we have, not that we're socially isolated, but we have become a very, close-knit family. And so my yeah. kids, I feel like we're very honest with them, and we talk to them about what's going on, to an extent. However, so I feel like they aren't as affected as, kids that they're completely trying to adapt to a whole new lifestyle. They were used to going to school. They were used to doing all those things. And so my kids, we usually spent most every day together, and, we ate all of our meals together. And so this isn't a big change for us. I feel like we've been kind of adapting for the last 18 months. Yeah. And we're very healthy, and so I'm very grateful for all of those things. And I'm not concerned about, the food that we're eating, yeah. and worrying about that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm just very grateful for our health and for it to be stable, you know, because like we talked about, not everyone is in that position.
Yeah. So before we close tonight, maybe you would just share a few little magical tidbits from your studies of traditional midwifery there. What piece of advice or what piece of knowledge would you pass on to the midwives of the world?
Oh my goodness, this is a difficult task.
I know, it's a huge topic. I'm sorry.
I think, wow. I don't know. Oh gosh. I think
what impacted you most recently? What made you just stop and say, wow, everyone should know this?
Well, I think the same thing that I said before about education. I feel like there are so many women and families here that really lack basic knowledge about, you know, hygiene, the essentials that we take for granted, you know, nutrition and things like that. And it made me really grateful for sometimes the things that I took for granted. And I thought, you know, like, oh, I've studied a lot. Oh, I've, you know, worked as a healthcare professional for lots of years. But things that I just, you know, did automatically. I mean, people aren't aware that those things are important, you know, like washing your hands. And so I feel like that could also be part of the big problem here in Ecuador and why this virus went, you know, rampant in certain areas, because hand washing is so essential to so many different things in everything that we do, you know. And so I think, you know, spreading education and spreading knowledge to people around the world is so important.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really have anything specific to do with midwifery, but
that's okay. That's a good tip. What about in your study with the traditional midwives there? Did you learn anything from them that you wish everyone knew?
I mean, I've learned a lot of things from them. I mean, the women here that I've worked with here in the jungle area, they are just, I feel like, very connected to, they call it Pachamama, which is Mother Earth. And I think it's really, really amazing. And just to watch them, you know, just from the plants that they use in their daily life to, you know, being part of birth and everything. They just have a connection that I feel like is really admirable. And I would love to be more connected to the Pachamama in general, because I feel like we've kind of lost that. At least in the westernized world, we have. And so, yeah, I guess
That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your family and your situation to talk with us. If something changes, if you know, if numbers change or situation changes, will you let me know? We could do this chat again.
Sure, definitely.
Okay. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. I wish you and your family so much health and happiness and freedom, space.
Well, you stay safe there as well, and I hope everyone who's watching and that watches later also remember to wash your hands and be safe and educate those around you as well, because knowledge is power, right?
Thank you for that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear. Well, have a good day.